Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're tackling something really challenging in modern marketing. How do you drive exceptional, scalable efficiency, especially in a high-stress, high-competition local service market? We are taking a deep dive into the transformation of MB Towing. They're an emergency service business in the Memphis area. And their journey, well, it took them from a pretty solid campaign, 284% return on investment, which is good, to something genuinely astonishing. 490% ROI.
Yeah, this case study is, I think, critical for anyone running a local service business. I mean, that initial performance, nearly $3 back for every dollar spent, that's not bad at all. But in a vertical, like emergency towing, competition's fierce, the customer's need is right now. You can't really afford to just be good.
Right. Just good isn't enough when someone's stranded.
Exactly. So the goal shifted pretty quickly to maximizing efficiency. How do you get more emergency calls, scale that volume up without your cost per conversion just going through the roof?
Okay, so that's the core problem. And we've kind of boiled down their success into three main pillars that really drove this whole transformation. First, it was a really forensic approach to data-driven campaign refinement.
Deep in the numbers.
Second, surgical budget reallocation based purely on market timing. And third, this radical attention to landing page optimization, specifically focused on the mobile user experience.
And that's key. It wasn't about finding some brand new platform or just throwing more money at it. It was about shifting the focus away from just general traffic towards surgically converting every single click they actually paid for.
Okay, let's get into the numbers because honestly, they're pretty staggering. Let's look at the difference between that initial phase, April, May 2025, and the optimized performance later, July, August 2025. This wasn't just a little bump. It was, well, you called it a revolution. ROI up by 73%, from 284%, soaring to a huge 490%.
Yeah, and what's really impressive is that this efficiency translated directly into scale. Often marketers have to choose, right, efficiency or volume. But here, they actually got both. Total conversions up 136%. That's jumping from 44 phone calls to 104.
Wow, more than double the calls.
Exactly. And that's revenue growth right there, from about $4,400 to $10,400. I mean, this is pretty much the textbook definition of using data to drive real business expansion.
Okay, so for anyone listening who's, tracking their own marketing metrics, there seem to be two huge breakthroughs here that made this kind of scaling even possible. The first is what you called conversion rate excellence. Let's unpack that.
Yes. This, I think, is the absolute core of the whole success story. Their conversion rate more than doubled, 102% increase. It went from 15.12%, which is okay, up to an exceptional 30.50%.
30%.
30%. Now think about what that means. They were managing to capture almost 1 out of every 3 paid ad clicks as a genuine phone call lead in emergency services. Where customers are stressed, they're in a hurry, probably comparing 3 companies on their phone right then and there. Hitting 30% conversion rate is, well, it's almost unheard of.
Yeah, that changes the entire financial picture for the business, doesn't it? When your
Yeah.
conversion rate is that high, your cost effectiveness
Yeah,
it just has to follow.
precisely. And that leads us to the second big breakthrough, the cost efficiency gain. Because they were converting clicks so effectively, the cost per conversion just plummeted. It dropped by 35%,
Great.
from $26.03 down to just $16.96.
$16.96 for an emergency tow lead.
$16.96. And you have to put that in context. The industry benchmark for a qualified lead like this is often between $50 and $75, maybe even higher in some markets. So they weren't just saving a few bucks here and there. They were operating at a fraction of the typical market cost.
And think about that impact. When you drop your lead cost by nearly $10, that's not just a number on a report. That money goes straight back into the business, right? It could fund an extra hour of labor, cover unexpected truck maintenance. It directly translates into operational security, operational breathing room.
Absolutely. Every single dollar they spent on ads was bringing back $4.90 in revenue. That's just pure business leverage right there.
Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting for me. We see the amazing results, the ROI, the low CPL, but let's move past the metrics and dive into the actions. What were the specific, maybe non-obvious strategic moves that actually produced this? Let's detail this winning formula they put together.
Right. Well, the first and probably the most profitable insight came from really digging into market timing. The data just clearly showed this distinct pattern. Saturdays and Sundays, they had a 43% higher conversion rate compared to the average weekday.
Okay, that feels intuitive, right? People travel more, do more stuff on weekends.
It is intuitive, but it's rarely acted upon this aggressively. People are traveling more, yes, engaging in leisure activities, and unfortunately, that's exactly when accidents and breakdowns tend to peak.
So the logic follows. If your highest value customer, the person most likely to call and pay, is calling you on a Saturday afternoon,
Yeah.
why on earth would you allocate the same budget to, say, a quiet Tuesday morning?
Exactly. And the tactical action they took was honestly brilliant in its simplicity. They just reallocated 40% more budget specifically to those weekend time slots. They basically stopped funding the hours where conversions were just lukewarm
No.
and doubled down, maximizing visibility during peak demand.
Smart. Just follow the data.
That's exactly it. Understanding the specific timing of distress is absolutely key for any emergency service. But timing wasn't the only thing. They also got much, much smarter about where they were spending their money. They brought in what we call geographic precision.
Meaning they didn't just target the whole Memphis metro area anymore.
No, not broadly. They identified specific, high-value service areas. Zip codes where maybe the average tow distance was longer, or the type of vehicle typically towed meant a higher service value, and they focused their budget almost entirely there. While, and this is important, ruthlessly cutting the low-performing or low-average order value zip codes. This made sure every click they paid for wasn't just likely to convert, but likely to be a high-profit conversion.
Okay, so better timing, better location targeting. What about the message itself, the ad copy? For emergency services, that copy has to work instantly, right? Solve the problem right now. They emphasize 247 availability, fast response. Sure, that seems standard. But you mentioned the most powerful change, maybe the riskiest one, was adding pricing transparency.
Yes, adding that phrase, tows from $100, right into the ad copy.
Yeah.
That was a crucial move.
Okay, I have to stop you there for a sec, because for a lot of advertisers, especially in an emergency vertical, putting a price floor like $100 seems counterintuitive. Don't you risk scaring off people just price shopping? Or maybe they assume you're too expensive right off the bat. How do they weigh that risk?
Well, that was kind of the entire point. They were intentionally qualifying the leads before the click even happened. Sure, they might have lost some clicks, probably lost the high volume, low intent clicks from people just, tire kicking or hoping for a super cheap $50 tow. But the calls they did get, they were from leads who had already seen and basically accepted that basic price threshold.
Ah, okay. So the people calling were already warmer leads.
Much warmer. It meant the dispatchers or operators weren't wasting valuable time on, quote, calls that were never going to convert anyway. This led directly to higher quality conversations and helped drive that incredible 30% conversion rate we talked about. It also, frankly, shows a commitment to transparency. Builds trust right when the customer feels most vulnerable.
That makes sense. It's smart, targeted lead qualification happening right in the ad itself. And speaking of vulnerability, we absolutely have to talk about the mobile-first necessity. Like you said, when you're broken down on the side of the road, you're not firing up a desktop computer, you're stressed, could be 2 a.m., maybe it's raining, your phone battery's probably dying.
Yeah, you have to picture that exact scenario. That's the user experience you're designing for. If that landing page takes more than, say, 2 seconds to load, forget it. If the click to call button isn't immediately visible, like right there above the fold, gone. If the text is tiny and hard to read, you lose that customer instantly.
So MB Towing really focused on this.
They nailed the landing page improvements. They optimized the entire mobile experience for speed and just instantaneous function. And crucially, they added trust signals right away. Things like displaying years in business, local credentials, maybe some customer logos or reviews. These are non-negotiable for a stressed user needing help right now.
Okay, this is all making sense. Let's drill down into the data's microstructure a bit more. We know the overall averages were fantastic, but what did those day-of-week insights reveal when you looked really granularly at efficiency versus just raw volume?
Yeah, the day-of-week data powerfully justified that budget reallocation strategy we discussed. While Saturday and Sunday definitely brought in the highest volume of conversions, the single most efficient day, purely based on cost, was actually Wednesday.
Wednesday. That's fascinating. Middle of the work week. Why would competition be lower then, driving the cost per conversion down to just $12.39 on Wednesdays? That's incredibly low.
Well, we hypothesize it's likely a combination of things. First, a lot of competitors probably focus their ad spend heavily on the beginning and end of the week, Mondays and Fridays plus weekends, leaving Wednesday a bit quieter. Second, midweek tows might be more related to routine mechanical failures or, minor fender benders rather than the high volume, high stress incidents linked to leisure travel. Fewer emergencies might mean fewer companies bidding aggressively. So Wednesday became this solid foundation for them. averaging about 4 conversions daily at an ultra-low cost.
Okay, so Wednesday provided that super efficient profitability baseline.
Exactly.
All the weekends delivered the maximum volume, the scale potential.
Precisely. Saturday and Sunday combined, they were accounting for about 8.3 daily conversions on average. That confirmed that pushing 40% more budget there was absolutely the right move for scaling up. And the ultimate proof, maybe the cherry on top, was seeing the single peak performance day, Friday, July 25th, 2025. On that one day, the whole optimized system yielded 7 conversions and generated a massive 729% daily ROI.
700% ROI in one day.
Yeah, it just proves that the infrastructure, the optimization, it was ready to scale efficiently when that peak demand really hit.
That level of analysis really shows the power of connecting those tiny micro data points, like cost per conversion on a Wednesday, to the big macro business outcomes. So let's talk bottom line, the financial impact. What did it ultimately mean, acquiring customers for just $16.96 each?
Well, the financial impact, it really speaks for itself. The total profit margin during that optimized period reached 8,636 septas, and that was on only $1,764 in ad spend. They acquired 104 high-quality, pre-qualified customers at that super low cost. But beyond just the immediate profit, what this campaign really created was a highly predictable, highly resilient flow of leads.
Which has knock-on effects everywhere else.
Absolutely. It means better resource planning for trucks and drivers, happier operators because they're dealing with qualified leads, and just a significantly expanded, stronger market presence in that very competitive Memphis towing sector.
Yeah, that's not just marketing success anymore. That's building a whole new foundation for the business itself.
Okay, let's try to synthesize the main takeaways here. If you're listening and you run any kind of local service business, could be HVAC, plumbing, roofing, electrical, whatever, what are the absolutely critical success factors from this MB towing story that you should be thinking about applying, like, tomorrow?
Okay, the model is pretty clear, I think. 4 key things. Critical factor 1, data-driven optimization. You have to move beyond just looking at your monthly ad spend report. Commit to weekly analysis. Run rapid testing cycles. Understand the nuances, like day-of-week efficiency in your specific market.
Got it. Dig deeper than the monthly summary.
Critical factor 2, market timing. Don't just assume all hours or all days are equal for customer demand. You need to identify precisely when your customers need you most urgently. For towing, it was weekends. For HVAC, maybe it's during sudden heat waves or cold snaps. And then be bold enough to reallocate maybe 30–40% of your budget to directly target those peak times.
Okay. Critical factor 3, message clarity and qualification. This is where, honestly, a lot of businesses stumble. Be brave enough to clearly communicate your core value proposition and, crucially, your pricing framework right up front in the ad or on the landing page. Using pricing, like that tows from $100 example, is actually a high-yield strategy. It filters out the low-quality leads and dramatically boosts conversion rates among the high-intent prospects who are ready to act.
Be transparent, even if it feels risky.
Yes. And finally, critical factor 4, the mobile-first approach. This is non-negotiable now. For any urgent local service, your entire digital front door, your website, your landing pages must be optimized for a stressed user on a mobile device. Speed, clarity, an immediate, obvious click-to-call button. These aren't nice to haves, they're essential. At the end of the day, this study really proves that conversion rate optimization, CRO, is often a much faster path to profitability than just chasing more and more volume.
Right. Better leads beat more leads. And having built this really robust, efficient platform, what does the future potentially look like for a company like MB Towing now?
Well, they're positioned perfectly now for some pretty aggressive strategic growth. They can confidently look at geographic expansion, maybe moving into neighboring counties or cities, because they've proven the efficiency model works and can likely be replicated. They can also focus on service line growth, maybe promoting more specialized, higher margin services like heavy-duty transport or long-distance towing, knowing they have this reliable, low-cost customer acquisition funnel supporting the core business.
It really is an incredible deep dive, moving from a good 284% to that exceptional 490% ROI. Just by focusing relentlessly, not on what's easiest, maybe, but on what's most precise. The big takeaway for me is achieving real business transformation by obsessing over the details of when and why your customer is actually reaching out in that moment of need.
Absolutely. The whole success hinges on that powerful combination of timing and qualification. We saw the immense value of message clarity, qualifying leads effectively, best shown by that tolls from $100 tactic. So if getting close to 500% ROI depended on understanding that customers were most desperate on Saturdays and Sundays and that they needed to see pricing and availability immediately, well, it really forces every business owner listening to ask themselves a hard question.
What is?
Are we just prioritizing simple click volume, chasing vanity metrics? Or are we ruthlessly optimizing for the precise timing of customer need and delivering genuine, transparent communication at that exact moment? So we encourage you listening. Consider this. What specific timing insight, what critical moment of need are you potentially missing right now in your own field? Because finding that insight and acting on it like Embo Twing did, well, that's often the difference between just being profitable and achieving runaway success.